Hello, everyone. Hello. We are back with one of my good friends, Dr. Marnie, and I'm excited to have her back on today's show. We're going to be talking about life after abuse. Hey, there is life after it is all over. Your life does not stop. And she is a living testimony of how life can go on. I want us to get right into it. So I want us to talk about your 5 book series and tell us how you got into the writing and how your life has just really turned for the better.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about that. What we talked about in our first interview together was, the spiritual awakening I had basically when God came to my garage sale during a very challenging time when I chose to leave that 27-year marriage and basically lost most everything that gave me safety and security, my home, my assets, my money, even my 2 adult children, to parental alienation, which, I would not wish that on anyone. But through that kind of dark time, I was still filled with God's love, and I was filled with miracles and the hope that I would survive this situation that I chose to do. I chose to leave, not realizing how much abusers kind of ramp up their game afterwards. I wasn't quite prepared for that, but just with any adversity and challenge in my life, I just handle it with love and light and goodness. So I became an author after having that garage sale because I was just compelled to share these true experiences that I encountered that were really life changing. And then I went on to move from a lifetime in the Chicago suburbs to the Caribbean. So I did make a nice change in scenery, even though I loved Chicago. And that's where I raised my family, where I spent most of my life. And I was a high school special education teacher for 35 years and 12 years at Northern Illinois University. I was an adjunct graduate school professor. So I had a beautiful life in so many ways. But I definitely, needed a change after all of those losses that I had gone through. And the timing was perfect that I retired. So I ended up falling in love with a wonderful friend of mine.
Wow.
And his name is Rick. And I met him in a tennis class. Actually, one of my children and I took a tennis class and we met him there. And, I had no interest in him at all. I was married at the time, but I wanted to set him up, but he said, no, I've got someone special in my life. And I'm like, that's so cool. But, I was ready to line him up with someone because he's such a good person. And I could tell in that amount of time, especially after being with someone so very dishonest and calculating and kind of a secret agent man for 27 years, I think I was ready to sort of realize that there are good people out there.
So, if you don't mind me stopping you for a minute, how did you get to that point? Because it would be hard for me to trust,
Oh yeah,
because 20 some years of being with someone who
yeah.
has deceived you, who has gaslit you for so long, and then, the things they tried to do to you even after, you said, okay, let's just call it quits, and they were still. So, how did you get to the place where you felt you could trust? And then did you go in trusting right away?
Very good question. Because yes, I was, my only experience was with someone so very dishonest and all the infidelities and the money manipulations and just the deceit. That's kind of why I wrote that book series, True Deceit, because the
It
deceit is what was true. The love was actually false. So, it's true deceit, false love. But no, it didn't happen right away. And like I said, when I met Rick, I wanted to set him up with someone else just because I thought he was such a nice guy. And he's older than me and wiser and just very intelligent. But just very kind hearted and actually very spiritual. had more of a connection to faith than I did at that time. And but he said, no, I have someone special in my life. And I thought, that's cool. And I got to know her. Actually, the three of us became pals, and we all just kind of hung out together a lot. They lived only 5 minutes from my home where I raised my children, and they had many acres. They had some property, and they had a lot of animals, and it was just so much fun for me to just escape from the kind of not as happy life as I was living, to just be in nature and be with them. But she actually, unfortunately, got very sick and passed away. And I was there for her and for him, just as a support, taking care of their house or their animals, whatever they needed. And they were both a support to me when my light bulb went on one night over pizza, and I realized I needed to escape the marriage I was in. And I had no idea what was in store for me with the repercussions and the legal abuse and the just of losing everything. I mean, it was just very much a shock, but they were there for me. And then when it was just him, he was there for me. And so our friendship blossomed. And even for a long period of time, we would just travel together as friends, just to spend time together and see the world and see parts of the United States. And then we realized we really wanted to spend more time with each other. It was really a natural progression. So my story is very different than many other people who go on dating sites or try to get friends to connect them with, someone that they know. Many people that leave abusive relationships with narcissists end up kind of revisiting that and getting back into a relationship where they are love bombed and they think it's the real deal, but then they come to find out that they're dealing with another malevolent individual who actually is set out to harm them, use them, take their money, whatever it is. I'm so fortunate that I did not experience that, but I certainly, through my outreach with my books and speaking engagements and book signings and just connecting with so many people, many of which of who endorsed my book series. There are people I looked up to for their research, their knowledge, their spreading awareness. They turned around and supported me and said, hey, it's pretty cool what you're doing. I want to give you an endorsement for your book. So that was really neat. But that's how my love situation happened. And, just with spending so much time together, traveling the world, we ended up deciding when I retired that he would retire as well. And we now live in the Caribbean, and we're having a beautiful life in paradise. And it just every day gets better and better. And I just feel like I'm spending my days with my true best friend, someone who really has my back.
Yeah, and that's awesome because so many women don't have that
Right.
um, ending to their story. It's funny. We briefly spoke earlier when my music accidentally came on. I love music, and I was riding down the road yesterday, and I was listening to Anita Baker, and one of her songs she is called Fairy Tales, and in her song she says, "My mother took me to bed. She told me these stories, and they always ended well." But in real life, they don't always end well.
No, they don't. And actually, my story in many ways might not end well. It doesn't seem like my two adult children who I've been alienated from, you know, if there's ever going to be a reunion of sorts. And that's where some trust issues will come up, because they have done some things, and I know it's not totally them. I know it's through their alienating father and the gaslighting that has happened to them, the Stockholm syndrome, where they align with the person that doesn't have the unconditional love. I might not have a happy ending to that story, but I believe in God and I believe in goodness and I believe in truth and honesty. And at some point I can do only as much as I can humanly do. I can't control what other people do or don't do. And if I don't see them in this lifetime, I at least know that I've done everything I can, um, with my writings, with my speaking, with just being the best mom that I can be, to know that, it will be what it will be. At
Yeah.
least I've decided to continue living. And I'm living a beautiful life. And yes, there's a hole in my heart. Actually, two holes in my heart where my children are. But they have their journey as well, and somehow they need to have their light bulbs of truth illuminated. And that's not for me to do. I can't make that happen, but I can certainly pray, and I can certainly ask God to look over them and just guide them. And it's very hard for a targeted parent like myself, and it happens to dads as well as moms. It's so hard to know that they are being abused and you can't do anything about it. And researchers do say parental alienation is not only a form of intimate partner violence, which it is because it's really directed at the ex, but it is child abuse, and it is terrible child abuse. And to be a parent who has spent their lives protecting their children, trying to do right by them in every way. And I was blessed. I had my daughter in my life for 20 years and my son in my life for 30 years. And I know that God has blessed me with that is something that is much more than many other people experience.
Yeah.
But I just have to accept what it will be will be.
I was thinking about you last time we spoke, and I was thinking about the children, and I was thinking about what they went through, and I can imagine how, because and we're just going to touch on it briefly, and then we're going to move on, because I want us to really get into the how your writing really has helped you, and how I'm sure that, of course, I like the journey, but we're going to get into it. But I was thinking about the children, and I was thinking about how they grew up and how you were being gaslit, and then he was doing the same to them, and so all they know is this dysfunction. And so of course he made it look like mom is this way, but then one day, but I do believe that God is going to, one day, the light bulb, like you said, it's going to go off, and they're going to come running and saying, mom, we're so sorry,
Yeah.
because
But
they are.
I appreciate you saying that, and we can always hope. And the reality is my love is unconditional. And
Hmm.
yeah, I will have to, the whole trust issue, there's, especially because I'm sure that they'll still be involved with their father and have that very negative, malevolent influence that, I don't put it past him. He will
Yeah.
go to any lengths to try to destroy me.
Hmm.
But, it isn't the children's fault when it comes to parental alienation. Yeah, they don't know any better. They saw the gaslighting. They, especially I was there as their mother for 20 years
Yeah.
with one and 30 with the other. They know which parent lies, cheats, and steals, and they know which parent doesn't. So they're living in such trauma and such fear. But, at this point, only God can help them and
Hmm.
and to see the light, and they'll realize that there have been other players in here. They call them flying monkeys. They could call them, they're good friends, they're neighbors,
Yeah.
they're even family members. They all kind of gang up and align with the abuser, that convincing,
Mhm.
very harmful individual. But you can only do so much. And writing has really helped me just move
Yeah.
past this trauma.
So let's get into that. Tell us, how did you get into the writing, and when did you discover that it was so therapeutic for you?
Well, of course, the first book, God Came to My Garage Sale, was, during that very challenging time when miracles happened. And
Hmm.
I found that the writing was very therapeutic. And then it got the endorsement of James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy. And
Oh,
that was just
wow.
so cool that someone of that caliber, author, would find value in what I did. And he doesn't really offer endorsements lightly. And then I connected with the IONS community, the people that deal with near-death experiences and spiritual transformation. And
Okay.
they supported my work. And that was very cool. And then realizing that that book has won a lot of awards. Most recently was just a week or two ago, I won the Hollywood Book Festival runner-up award. So now it's getting even more exposure. And there's talk of it being a movie. So that's extremely validating, to know that, okay, this writing was healing for me, but it's actually resonating with some other people.
Yeah.
Then I ended up, since moving to the Caribbean, I wrote a 5-book series called True Deceit, False Love. And I didn't really plan on that, but it all came about because I was trying to understand what I was going through. I didn't know what parental alienation was. I didn't even know what narcissism was, or gaslighting, or smearing, or gray rock, or any of these terms that are thrown about in this community. So I would write the terms down to look up later. And, before I knew it, I had 100 terms to look up.
Ah.
I was like, okay. But then that list grew to 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And Brianna, then it got over 10,000 terms to look
Oh
up.
my God.
That is when I said, listen, I am going to write a book. And so the first book in the series is 15,555 terms and phrases on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. And amazing
We can get this on Amazon, correct?
Oh, yeah. All my books are on Amazon. And, if money is tight for people, which it is for a lot of people these days, you can get an e-version for just $3.99 if you want to check out, the books. And then that led to me writing acrostic poetry and free verse poetry. And I even did a survivor's workbook. One of the books is a survivor's workbook. So if some people feel that writing might help them, they could put a term, like, for example, they could use a word that begins with F, flying monkeys, or foreclosure. That's something I experienced with my home. They could write that word down and then just write their thoughts about it, and, they can heal. They can put a person's name there. They can write whatever they want and then just get the thoughts and the feelings out. And so, like I said, I have 2 poetry books, free verse and acrostic. And then the last book in the series, which actually isn't the last book, it's the 5th book.
Okay.
Word search puzzle book, where you actually see the terms.
Oh, wow.
And then you can do like a little word search, and you're using another part of your brain. You're being creative, but you're also kind of distracting yourself and giving yourself a break while you're still focused on healing. So I do have one more book in the series that will be coming out next year.
Oh, wow.
But that, I find that when you go through anything traumatic, and your listeners might have other things that are traumatic, a health scare, a loss of a loved one, losing a job, realizing a family member wasn't as honest as you thought, whatever. Everyone has their own challenge. I mean, you might even be living day to day and not even know where you're going to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Everyone has a challenge, and it looks different for everyone. But I can tell you that your attitude, if you have an attitude of gratitude, that will get you far, and to be thankful for the blessings that you do have. And then if you could find a creative outlet for yourself, some sort of passion. Some people like exercising. That's not me so much.
Me either.
I don't want to get up in a matching outfit and go to a gym and jump up and down. Now, I live in the Caribbean. I get natural exercise by hiking the rainforest or swimming in the ocean every day. So, that works for me. But, tending to a garden, painting,
Mm-hmm.
singing, listening to music. Like you said, you listen to music. I listen to music as well. In fact, that's always been such a wonderful outlet for me is listening to music and creating music at times. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, the big outlet was writing, but I'm finding joy in just creating things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is, I think, a key to help people get past the trauma because, realize you can only control so much.
Yeah.
At some point, you have to accept your circumstance. You can change what you can, but there will be some things you can't change and you have to accept it.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people who have been through trauma, finding the place of acceptance is a hard thing for them. And
Sure.
then knowing what you have to accept, because being abused or going through traumatic situations, there are some things that we are wired to accept that really you don't have to accept. You don't have to accept that this is all you are worth, or you don't have to accept that this is all life is going to give you, because that's not the truth. That is a lie, and you have to get to a place where you can reprogram your mind. And so the creativity helps you get to that place of
Yes.
gratitude, and it helps you to rewire your thinking, the way you think and how you view yourself, and just how you view life in general. Because if you can put your hands to doing something and complete it, that gives you a sense of accomplishment.
Right. And you make a wonderful point because we have been, as empathetic, loving souls that had very, very weak boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, to stay in a marriage 27 years and stay in a friendship over 50 years, not realizing I was trauma bonded. And that was with another person. You when you start to realize what you've been through, your eyes kind of open up and you have to kind of assess other people and players in your life and
Yes.
situations in your life. And, that can be extremely painful. The other one's very obvious. You want to escape an abuser, but some other people, it's not quite as obvious. And so, yes, we've been wired to accept bad behavior and make excuses for them or keep plugging away, thinking it'll get better. You
Mm-hmm.
know, oh, he's done having affairs or he's done taking
Right.
our family money and do that when really they're not. they
Mm-hmm.
they test you to see how much you will withstand, and then they push it and push it until
Mm-hmm.
at some point they're done with you. In my case, I was done with him.
Yeah.
And but so we do have to rewire our thinking, like you said, and creativity will do it, but also listening to your podcast will do it.
Yes.
Having these candid conversations
Mhm.
give people the permission to realize, hey, they're not alone. you
Mhm.
know and you know they're talking about rewiring our thinking. Yeah, maybe we need to change how we respond to different things. We have that power within us.
We do, and I was doing some studying this morning. I oftentimes go back and take some of my counseling books from school back off the shelf. And so I was up early this morning. I was doing some reading, and one of the topics in the book I was reading was this what they was talking about toxic love, and how as children we learn toxic love, and so it might not present itself within a romantic relationship, but it can present itself within the way we raise our children, the way we carry on just with our friendships. One of the stories was a lady whose son was on drugs, and he was literally taking the mom's money. I mean, going to jail, and she constantly kept bailing him out, bailing him out. And she used the excuse of, his father wasn't in this life. I gotta be there. That's
Right.
toxic love, because
Yeah.
love doesn't always, love is not like that. Love doesn't hurt. And so when it begins to hurt, that is toxic, because sometimes we have to put our foot down. Children are no, children
Yeah.
are no children. I have to
Right.
put my foot down and let you know you're going to have to learn a lesson. And the lesson you're going to have to learn is not going to be at my expense.
Thank you. That is definitely something that is very hard for a lot of loving parents to realize. But you do have to even put up healthy boundaries with your own children and say,
Mhm.
listen, I will not enable this behavior. And
Right.
and that's where a lot of research comes in handy to learn about drug addiction, to
Mm-hmm.
learn about, how a child could be a golden child or a scapegoat child, and then they're playing out these roles. And it's a lifelong journey. I'll tell you, even as an adult, I've had to look at my own um, relationship with a few family members. And even though I love them, and we have this history together, I'm realizing, that's not always healthy. And it doesn't make me feel good. And, they don't, they love you and they want you in their lives because of what it looks like, or that this is how it should be. But they don't really love you in the way that you need to feel love,
Right.
where they don't even acknowledge anything that you've done. They might even just not even talk about the elephant in the room or whatever. They just skip it by, and they might send you a birthday card, or they might uh give you a text or something, but it's so surface. It's
Mm-hmm.
not really addressing. And at some point you need to say, listen, I either want a real sincere, deep relationship, or I don't want a
Yeah.
relationship at all, family or no family.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really hard, but research helps. And, there are various people out there that have written books or that have podcasts or speak on this. There's research even to help you, make some of these tough decisions. If you feel like you can't, if you're kind of questioning, which is very natural. It's very natural to question when you've decided to put up a boundary and you haven't had a boundary for
Yeah.
most of your life.
Right. And then, deciding, it's called relational intelligence. And so getting books on relational intelligence is something that's really, really good, I believe, because a lot of times people don't know what that means. They don't know what it looks like, what it is. So you don't know what boundaries are. I used to do orientation for a healthcare company, and I would come in, and the first thing I would let them know is you have to have therapeutic boundaries. You
Yeah.
know, when you're in the home, this is you're the worker. You're not the daughter. You're not the friend. You're not the,
Right.
the granddaughter. You are the worker. When you leave, you are off. You are free. You don't get paid anymore. And so your boundary is they don't get to call you.
Right. Right.
But in everyday life, we take we want to play this role of, a lot of women want to play the role of superhero or
Right.
superwoman.
We want to fix things and make everything
Yes.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah, and want to fix things when you're broken. And it's like you're broken. You have nothing to give out. You're broken. You need to take time and fix yourself, but you don't want to. So where it's 9 o'clock, you should be resting. You know you need to be resting. You got an early day tomorrow. You're taking a phone call. And it's for what? That phone call can wait till tomorrow.
Yes, it can.
Um,
And sometimes we want to fix, not so much because we are broken, because we are empathetic, loving people. We want to, but that's not the role that we're in. Like, for example, I was a high school teacher for 35 years. Boy,
mm,
did I have a numerous opportunities or instances when I wanted to, just go that little step further to help
yeah.
them. And, and I might do things like bring extra food and have it in my classroom or do that kind of thing. But I had to realize my role as a
Hmm.
teacher. I was not a mother. I was not a
Yes.
sister. I was not a best friend.
Hmm.
And so that is very, very healthy to have those kind of boundaries. It's very hard, though, as a loving
Yeah.
parent, when you see your child being abused or,
Mm.
addicted to drugs, or, repeating some of the same patterns that will get them, that will end up in heartbreak or whatever, but you
Oh yeah.
can't save them. They have their lessons themselves.
Oh yeah, and it is very, very hard. And I think a lot of times what parents do, if you're like me, when I would see certain things in my children that I knew this is from me, they
Mhm.
learned this from me, I would immediately go into feeling really bad because I'm like, Lord. they're doing this because they learned this from me. Now I've learned my lesson, but how can I help them not do the same thing? And I would do the blaming, make, just feeling bad before things would get better. So I
Mhm.
think that a lot of that has to do with you can just see your mistakes, but we got to learn that, and we got to believe within ourselves that we learn from it. We can help our children. We can provide them the tools. But then after we do that, it's up to them whether they want to use the tools. From
Right.
there, I've done my part. It's up to them. They have to have the willpower within to want to do better. Because if
Yeah.
I'm telling you this is what happened to me, this is you're not going down a path that's going to lead to anything life giving. It's
Yeah.
only destruction. It's going to take away. Then, and they choose to continue to go on. We got to learn and know it's all right because we've done our part.
Right, right. And many of us have done our part over and over and over again.
Yes.
And at some point you've got to step back and just pray and know that you've provided the foundation and the tools. And I think we also role model by how we live. So
Yes.
I choose to live in love and goodness and positivity,
Hmm.
and they can witness that. And I think we even without my children in my life, I believe, well, they're always in my life, in my
Yes.
heart, but I believe that role modeling carries on and can take on different forms. And
Hmm.
you know I also am role modeling that you can suffer horrific abuse and losses, and they know a
Oh, yeah.
lot. um
Oh,
but you can choose to rise above that
yeah.
and just make the best life for yourself. I had no idea that my life would um turn out so beautifully, and it's yeah, a lot of it's my doing, and that I hung in there, and I continued to remain positive. And even though justice doesn't always prevail, like for example in the court systems and that, but goodness and truth and love does prevail. And
Hmm.
I don't need to answer to anyone except God above. And I feel like I'm loved and supported. And
And
so
that's really good because if people can just I always say, get delivered from other people's opinions,
yeah,
you will find that your life will do a 360 regardless of what comes up, because your character will always outlive a lie.
yeah,
It's you that's going to show up. And when you show up, the lie has to dispel.
right,
But if
right.
I show up and I'm under the weight of, oh, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? All this stuff went before me, then you're going to probably look like what they said about you. But if you show up being who you are,
Yeah.
knowing who you are, and wearing it, and with your head held high, I promise you, I've seen it done. I've lived through it. That lie will dispel, and you will have people that um, didn't even know you, has heard your name, come up to you and begin to support you because they heard all this negative. Well, they said this about you. I don't see that in you.
No, no, the lies and the half truths actually come out.
Yeah.
But a real important point to make here is that we also need to learn not to have need and rely on external validation
Yes.
for our worth. We need to know within ourselves, like for example, with my writing, wow, I got a lot of external validation from the people who endorsed my books.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Vaknin, Jennifer Harmon, Tracy Malone, Ashley Burgess, some amazing people out there.
Yeah.
That was extremely validating for me. And it really kind of feels good, that they know what you're doing. But really, I didn't need that external validation because I can validate myself within myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that people that have been gaslit or abused, so we've kind of lost our own sense of self. And
Yes.
you need to work towards getting back to that confident, secure person that you were before a malevolent person kind of came into your life and kind of threw you for a loop.
Oh yeah, that the no that self that identity, and I had when I remember when I was going through my own healing, and I had told somebody, I said, once I get back to me, because I had to fight to get back, because I'm fighting to get back to me. I'd be doggone if I let somebody else ever come in and make me forget who I am.
Right, right.
When
Yeah,
you
you
get
get
back there, it's like
stronger.
you will not. There's no way I'm gonna let you. Even if you find yourself getting back in a situation like that, when you find yourself slipping away, it's like, no, 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 no. Let me
Yeah,
back up, because
yeah.
I'm not gonna lose who I am, because I know who I am. So
But that's part of the journey, and I mean, if we didn't experience the negativity and the
mhm.
challenging relationships, I don't think we would get to that point where we really are strong in our own convictions and self-worth, and can move out past this trauma to a life of freedom and beauty and happiness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, So I'm excited. Today's topic was really, really good. Look, I could go on for hours and hours and
No,
hours
I know.
and just talk, because I think it is very important, and we might have to make this like a monthly thing, because I think women need to be able to have a space where they can come to and just hear and their thoughts be given voice, so
Right.
that they can know I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one who feels like this. And knowing that you can make it, because you really can.
Yeah.
Both of us have almost similar stories, and if we can start over and know that God can take us from the bottom, take scraps and pieces, and put them back together again and make them beautiful. He can do it for anybody.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I resonate with you and your mission and what you are doing, and just feel so honored that our paths crossed and we could have these conversations.
Yes, I'm honored that our paths cross. I really am. I really am. I appreciate you. I thank you for your bravery. I thank you for your commitment to going on and moving on, because you truly, truly, truly are an example of what strength is.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, a
That means a lot
survivor.
to me. Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And everybody, thank y'all for joining us. I am excited. I love you. I do. I love you. um,
Wonderful.
Again, everybody, join us next week as we continue on with another guest. But we're gonna try to have Miss Marnie back.
Okay.
Maybe we can do this every month. I don't know.
Sometime. Well, I will tell you, I'm starting in 2023. I am really excited about some other literary endeavors I have going on. So
Yes.
I'll never say never, and I would love to come back again, but I'm also very excited about finishing up that sixth book in the True Deceit False Love series,
Yes.
and a couple speaking engagements and book signings, of course, but there's some big things on the horizon, I think, coming up for me. So we'll see where the new year will take us.
Yes. Yes. Well, just keep us up to date.
Yeah,
And
well, check, always I keep my website up to date, www.godcametomygaragesale.com. And there's a happenings section where I've posted our first interview that we had, and I'll post this along with anything else I have going on. So you can kind of, follow me and see what I have on the horizon.
we're good. We're good. Well, we are praying for you, and we love you. And everybody, we'll see you next week.
All right, take care.